Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Welcome to WowBiz, Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. Think of the number one thing you never want to do. I'm going to tell you in 14 minutes you're going to want to do it. Welcome to WowBiz, Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker. Bruce Ahrens over here. And we have Patti Schutte, who is a public speaking coach. She's going to help you gain the confidence you need. In 14 minutes, you're going to want to talk in front of every group you've ever seen before. You've never wanted to do this. It's a wonderful transformation right here on WowBiz, Nebraska, huh?
Absolutely.
Patti, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about yourself so that we know who we're listening to. You work with Metro and do a variety of different things. Tell us again what the career focus is before we jump into this controversial topic.
The controversial topic. Well, you know, it's interesting that you say that because I actually started in the not so controversial career of education, which is where I started in the classroom. And then I moved from there into direct sales. And it's amazing what happens. You have to be able to sell, you have to be able to market, you have to be able to present all at the same time, but I got really good at paying attention to those that were on the top. Why were they at the top? Why did some people say, I like to see that person speak, but I love to see this person speak?
Yes.
And from there, it evolved into, wow, you have really good speaking skills. Can you teach me? And one day I picked up the phone and I had a girlfriend who was an event manager at a conference that had international speakers, and she's like, my speakers have to be better. And I need you to help me, and you're the only one that can help. I said, okay, what are we going to do?
That's wonderful.
And so over 10 years ago, we were giving webinars and doing virtual coaching to up-level her speakers, and from there, it has grown into helping executives, helping facilitators. My son, I think, says it the best. If mom's in front of an audience, she makes sure you don't suck. And
that's how I would have said it.
That's kind of the tagline I've taken over the years. But it's been a natural evolution, and I love to study the art of it and make it feel tangible by anybody.
Yeah. And you know, there are so many personality types. With the Myers-Briggs things, for instance, there's 16 different types of people. And so you just kind of wonder who is the easiest to coach. Or is it extroverts rather than introverts? I'm just going to ask that question off the top of my head.
That's fabulous.
Have you ever thought about that before?
You know, I haven't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
And I actually think of it a different way. And the way I think about it is, how ingrained are you in what you define yourself as a speaker? So many of us don't think about the fact that when we present, we have a brand. So we either come across as more timid, we come across as a lot of movement. I mean, we have some sort of description.
Well, your personal brand kind of exudes.
Yes, it does. Now, sometimes your personal brand doesn't always match. So sometimes, if you've ever done a survey to say, you know, what do you think of this person as a brand? When they go to present, do those things match up? Now, sometimes you may want them to match up. Sometimes you may be purposely not wanting to match up, just depending on what the situation may be and the presentation that you may be giving and things like that. But I'm more looking at, how do you define yourself, or how do you want to define yourself?
And let's come back to that a little bit later, because I think that's really it really does get down to identity.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, and you just answered it before I asked it, for people who have not had experience like this, do you help them develop their own brand?
Yeah.
And that's important.
When I'm first working with somebody that, to your point, maybe saying, I don't want to do this, but I know I need to do this, because having wonderful speaking skills instantly elevates you in a lot of different angles on your career and your professionalism and your trajectory for growth and all that stuff. But one of the things I first set down is, a lot of times we don't think about the fact it's going to define you.
It's affirming.
Yes.
It really is, as to
and
from
clarifying.
The perspective.
Yes.
Right. And clarifying as to, from your audience's perspective, as to who you are.
Let's pretend that we have a professional in front of us right now. Maybe it's a sales manager or something like that. And they kind of feel like they need to improve in this regard. They got all the technical skills, but probably could enhance their communication skills. And they're with you, and they say, okay, I'm here. You got a couple hours. What do you want me to do first? You told me a little secret the other day that we were chatting. Tell us about that. I think that's remarkable and insightful.
Okay. So usually when I sit down with somebody, most of the time they come at me and they're like, here's what I got to talk about, and I'm like, whoa, slow down. You've given me your content. My first question is what do you want the audience to be able to do by the end?
Yeah.
What do you want them to remember by the end?
Yeah.
And how do you want them to feel? So let's talk about your ending.
Yeah.
Then that will drive the rest of it.
Yeah, I think that's
brilliant.
That's a brilliant thing because it forces you to kind of compress everything rather than winding through the journey of, well, I say this and then I think that and I do this and so on. So when they do that and they have that, let's say for instance that you come together around that, then what's the next step typically in your process?
So typically then I say, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to give interest or persuade? I like to keep the options simple. I think we have, if you
Too
look
many
at,
choices?
we have too many choices. I think we make speaking too complicated.
Yeah, yeah.
And let's just simplify it.
Yeah.
And so I have them decide, or at least verify to themselves, because a lot of times when I ask that question, they don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so interest would mean by the end, remember we just talked about the end.
Yeah.
So by the end, you want them feeling, oh, okay, well that was cool.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll try that. Where persuasion is you've hit them at a different emotional level. Like they're sitting on their chair going, I got to get out of this room right now and try this. Or they're like, wow, I am going to lose money if I don't make this adjustment. You're trying to persuade them.
It's almost a sense of urgency you're trying
Yes,
to invoke. maybe,
yes.
in some way.
But there is a level of intensity in this whole thing, kind of a level and degree. For instance, some people are like, wow, I didn't know he was going to come on so hard and he wants the order right now and so on. There can be too much. You kind of have to read it, even if you're there to persuade, don't you think?
And are you talking about how your audience is feeling?
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
what you're referring to?
Yeah. You were talking about how everybody had to feel motivated and urgent. I got to get out of here and go do something. I'm not sure if that's exactly, always what we want to do, even though they say this is a persuasion pitch. I've been through this several times where people say, just give us just educate us and just give us the facts, but don't make us feel like you're pitching us.
You have just nailed something that's vital. You have to know the expectations of your audience too.
Yeah.
So there is this balance between what are your goals walking into the room, but what is your audience looking for? And how are those questions, I call them high quality questions. What are those high quality questions? Not just my audience is this age and not just the basics.
Yeah.
But what is a day in a life like? What is it like in their shoes? What is it like to go home? What are they hoping out of this presentation?
Sure.
What did they see before or after this? Or what have they maybe experienced previously with the place they're at in their career?
Sure.
So it's this balancing act between those two expectations.
It really is, yeah. And you have to kind of read on the fly a little bit to kind of discern what their energy is.
Kind of having a sense of audience, a sense of who they are, even
prior to and while you're there at the same time.
You have to do that even if it's one-on-one, but let alone a whole crowd.
Yeah. Now I want to talk about the beginning because our time is swiftly moving by and we want to extract as much wisdom as we can. What is the most common way, an acceptable way to kind of, nothing fancy here, but give us the insight. How do you get started? Some people try to tell a joke, it doesn't work. Some people say, well, I'm going to talk to you today about this and this and this, so here we go. There's got to be some kind of standard way that people get into a presentation.
Especially if I'm coaching someone who is new and they're not sure of who they want to be.
Sure.
And they want to kind of come across just nice and professional and polished. And so I say the simplest way is smile.
Yeah.
Walk in front of the stage, let your arms down, just smile and say, here's my name. I'm so excited to be in your presence right now. Over the next how many ever minutes, this is where we're going to go. And you give your core point, core purpose, your one objective, not your 15 things, but by the end of this time together, my goal is we will have...
So you give them a sense of where you're going, what the future, what the outcome's going to be when you stick with me. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but I like to say it as almost a journey statement.
Okay.
That here's the journey we're going to take together. It's not me standing in front talking at you. Let's do this together.
It's our destination together.
Yeah, it's our destination together. And then from there, I like to do some sort of, it can be a story that goes through the whole time you're talking, or maybe it's just a short little hook. whatever your core purpose may be, do you have a little joke that makes sense in that moment that gets people laughing and giggling and go?
But not necessarily something that's completely unrelated to the
Correct.
topic.
Correct. See, so there's a difference between jokes and there's a difference between stories that make your content memorable.
What about symbols and metaphors? Do you purposely kind of help people figure out how to utilize them? It seems like some of the most impactful presentations use maybe more than one, but at least one at the beginning that kind of is full of metaphorical importance or profundity.
Yeah, and a lot of times it comes down to the content, because I get that question a lot, and there's no blanket answer.
Sure.
It's more of, well, what is your content? Who's your audience? Because one story or one analogy or an example may make sense in one situation because of that audience. It's not necessarily going to be the situation the next time around, so that example you're using doesn't necessarily resonate with that group.
Yeah.
Anytime we can do things in a story or an analogy or symbolism, just the way the brain works, we're going to remember it better.
That's the best, if we can.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But what I think is missed a lot, if I could give a little tip that I think we think about all of that, but we don't think about how to purposely use our body movement as we're delivering the content and use that to solidify our content.
Well, that's really heavy in a way, because when you start telling people about leaning forward or moving or now move and now pause, that's really good coaching. A lot of people will be coming and say, you mean I've got to do all that while I'm still thinking about what I'm saying, But that really is the pro. In fact, I want to ask you that next question here as we kind of wrap up this wonderful little interview. What's the difference between an okay speaker at a conference and he got through the material, it was fine, and the extraordinary speaker that you want to go home and talk to? What's the difference in your opinion?
Well, first of all, it doesn't matter if they're new and this is the first one or if they've been doing it for a long time. They feel authentic and approachable. You can tell when they're standing in front of the room, they're being themselves.
Sure.
They're not trying to be they're authentic.
Yeah, that's so powerful.
Yeah, so first and foremost, that's the first thing I'm looking for is authenticity, because your audience will just connect with you because you're being you.
Yeah.
But I think if there's a second thing that says, okay, this is good to great to exceptional, as you move up that, it's the fact that you can take the content you're saying, and you can take those stories, and you can mesh that with your facial expressions and your body movement, that it comes together kind of like, if you've ever been to a really good concert, you have the backup singers, you have you on the front stage. It's not just you in the front stage, but it's how you're using everything around you and bringing that together.
That brings me to one more question.
Okay.
And I think we have time for this. More and more people say, especially younger audiences, I don't want to attend a lecture. I don't want to hear some guy talk to me for 45 minutes and I sit there and I watch a PowerPoint or whatever. I want everything to be participative and interactive, and I want to be part of the program somehow. How do you respond to that? And is that realistic? Or, how do you adapt to a group of people that say, it's not going to be one way, you got to figure out a way to get us all involved somehow all the way through?
And I'm going to clarify your question. Are you talking about the audience involved
Yeah.
all the way through?
Yeah.
And that's interesting because that is something that's changed.
Yeah.
As I've been going through this for a number of years now, it's how do you engage the audience in different tips and tricks.
Real quick, 30 seconds.
Yeah, and real quick, 30 seconds, I do question and answer slides. Or I'll say, hey, I've been talking about this. I'll put a question up there that's thought-provoking. I'll say, go to your shoulder partner, talk to them. Go to your front to back partner, talk to them. Okay, great, that sounds good. So I find little places I can add in audience participation.
Good.
Within.
Very, very important. And thank you for distilling the wisdom that you accrued over the career. So we really appreciate it. And I know many people will want to jump in front of a crowd immediately after watching the show. So thank you so much, Patti Schutte. I appreciate your help.
You bet.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Bruce Aaron and I will be right back in just a minute. We'll be talking to you soon after our promotional discussion here coming right up. We'll talk to you soon. We've got a wonderful back end of the show. Thanks for watching.
Community Television, the channel with all of the local shows. If you live in the Omaha area, Cox Channel 22 and 1022 HD is your place. If you prefer streaming, go to kpaoTVOmaha.org. And now, if you have the Apple TV box, grab our app and watch us there. KPAO on cable, streaming live, and now on Apple TV.
I'm Lynn Hinderocker with WowBiz Nebraska and Growth Dynamics Consulting here in the Omaha area. I have a short message for you. This is the way to get more sales appointments while lowering the amount of time and energy you put into actually prospecting. Here's the idea. It's called Power PreSell. Let me say that again, Power PreSell, and the concept is all about video. It's very straightforward. You hire me, that's right, you hire me. I've had 30 years of experience doing exactly what I'm telling you about right now. Put me into a 3-minute video representing your company, educating prospects, giving them a sense of confidence, class, respect, prestige, and kind of establishing a framework for a phone call that comes right after the video hits their inbox or their email system, and your salesperson says, "Have you seen the video?" Yes, we have. Yes, we have. I'd like to come out and elaborate on a couple questions that may have come up. Absolutely. That's how it goes after they've listened to a straight, solid, but fascinating prelude or introduction to your company, your team, and your vision. And that really is the key right here. I'm also a copywriter, so many companies will say, well, here's our product, it's really good, there's Harry, he really knows what he's talking about. There's got to be more than that. Your brand has to stand for something, hopefully something inspirational. Definitely something unique, something maybe that has an emotional dimension or spin or feeling. This is where I excel. I can add that element or that veneer, so to speak, to the guts of your sales development program. So, one more time, you can get a hold of me right here on growthdynamics.org. That's growthdynamics.org, and talk to me about what it would take to represent your firm for 3 minutes on video. Now, you've heard this, video is 400% more effective in terms of grabbing people's attention, getting them focused on the core message, and you're off, right? You go through email, people open it up, there this guy is, he's talking about your company proudly and interestingly, by the way, and he's paving the way for constructive and productive, profitable sales appointments. That's what it's all about. Again, my name is Lynn Hinderocker. I've been doing this for a long time. You'll see a lot of videos on YouTube and elsewhere demonstrating my ability to help you refine and sharpen the focus and lower the amount of time and energy that has to go into appointment setting so you can sell, get the deal, put the money in the bank, have a good day. My name is Lynn Hinderocker. We'll see you soon. Don't hesitate to call or contact me through WowBiz Growth Dynamics. Talk to you soon. And that's how it goes on Growth Dynamics.
Well, people are so hesitant to sit down and read a lot of information. They don't seem to have time, but I think most people will be fine with clicking on a 3-minute video to learn, and you can concentrate the information and make it worth a while and educate them quickly.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, and it's something I've done for a long time. What most people that are interested in this find out is that we don't just need a spokesperson, which is fine. It's good to have somebody who can do that. Most business owners are not that comfortable doing that. Some are, but most of them are not. But the key idea is the strategy of the message. Yeah. They've been pitching it the same way for many years. Yeah. And when somebody comes along that has my background, 30, 40 years in national marketing, advertising, and so on, I can quickly say, you could come at it this way, we could emphasize this, or really talk about the problem. This is the part, talk about the problem that your product solves in much more emotional and interesting terms. Right. They just want to talk about the product. Right. But the problem to the client is much more interesting.
Well, a lot of times people are so close to their product or close to their process that they can't really see it from another perspective. That's where an outside voice can really be helpful.
Really, I think so, and it becomes increasingly more so in this cluttered, incredible world of the internet that we're in, where everybody's shooting each other automated emails. Oh my gosh! Nobody knows who really believes what, you know. Yeah. So anyway, Bruce Aaron, thank you for being with me, and we've had a great morning with Patti Schutte.
Oh, that was great. That was so interesting.
Very helpful in a short period of time. But here's one of the phrases I just love to reiterate to my kids and grandkids, which is readers are leaders. You know, I just read the other day, Warren Buffett said it, some other people have said it. Executives that succeed read sometimes hours every day. It's really something. So a lot of people, especially younger folks, will look at me quizzically and say, well, there's a million books. I haven't read one for about 10 years. What should I read? Right?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a good question because you don't want to waste your time in this day and age. So let's talk about some of the books that have just been recently released and reviewed by various business magazines, and which ones the both of us think might be something you can't pass up.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and lead that?
Well, I've got a list of 23 books.
Yeah.
Not all business oriented, but more. A lot of them are almost more. What would you say? Philosophical or introspective, or they make you think. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So the first one on the list here, I'm just going to read the title. It's just called Sprint: How to Solve Big Problems and Test New Ideas in Just 5 Days by Jake Knapp.
Yeah.
And
did that appeal to you?
Yeah, that appealed to me because a lot of times it kind of goes through the whole methodology of how to try to convert an idea into an actual prototype.
Yeah.
Because I find that a lot of times we might have a great idea.
Yeah.
But then what do you do with that?
How do you get from A to actually in the marketplace making money?
That's a huge jump.
It's a very big deal.
That's why that caught my eye.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And that is the key to innovation right here.
Right.
When we feel like we can jump into it and manifest an idea, 5, 6, 8 days, we'll know whether we got a winner.
Right.
I think there'd be a lot more people in Nebraska that would be innovating.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, here's the one that I'm impressed by, and that goes to the second page, number 7, which is Viktor Frankl. Now, this goes way back to World War II.
Okay.
But Man's Search for Meaning. People quote Viktor Frankl and his discussion. He was in a concentration camp in 42, 43, 44. He was one of the few that survived. He saw people dying and being tortured right in front of him. Depression was huge. And he extracted from this incredible experience almost a sense of joy and lightness.
It's beyond my understanding how people can do that. It's just so incredible.
He's got so much to share. Yeah. So I would say maybe that'd be my thought, is if there's one book and you're struggling with your business or your career or something like that, you might want to read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah. All right, let's go back to you.
Okay, I had on this list, it's number 5, The One-Page Marketing Plan.
Yeah.
Get New Customers, Make More Money, and Stand Out from the Crowd by Alan Dibb. This is a book, it sounds very interesting because he's got a methodology that's divided into 9 steps. And it's all very strategic and all that, but very straightforward and very easy.
And simplified.
There again, it comes down to maybe we got to the point where we've got the idea, we're going to implement it, and we've got the prototype, but how do we market it? What do we do? I mean, it's a huge question.
So many people I know are eager to start their own firm.
Yeah.
But they get it kind of pulled together in their head, but they have no confidence or no way to go forward on the marketing.
Because there's 1,000 different directions to go. Well, this kind of helps direct that.
Really, I think that's invaluable. Yeah. Now, here's another thing. We all want to know our identities. Some of us, don't care too much about discussing this. We've all heard about Myers-Briggs, people do that. But there is another symbol or chart or approach towards typing yourself, and that's called the Enneagram.
Not heard of that.
Yeah, and it's an ancient tool.
Really?
Yeah, it goes way back to like 300, 400 AD. And it comes out of the Middle East, frankly. And there are like levels of meaning associated with it. But essentially, it has 9 different types. And it works on the assumption, Bruce, that as we grow up, when we're maybe 4, 5, 6, we get this impression that we're not okay anymore. Right? We were okay until we get to a certain point, especially school.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now we realize for some reason we're not good at math and everybody else is. And so we overcompensate for our perceived weakness. Not just compensate, overcompensate. And that becomes then our personality style the rest of our life.
Really?
Yes.
Because it's all rooted into that overcompensation.
In those early years, and when you see people acting out, getting angry, screaming at others, being depressed, weeping premature, whatever it is.
Right.
Even manipulating other people subtly. This is all an overcompensation of their own self-image when they were about 6 years old.
Wow.
So there's a tremendous amount of unwinding, kind of seeing it, accepting it, and then pulling yourself out of it so that you can truly grow up and be a mature human being.
That's incredible.
What's it called again? A Enneagram. Yes, it's fascinating. I learned about it through Oscar Ichazo, but I won't get into that at all. All right, we got time for maybe one or two more things.
The $100 startup. Fire your boss, do what you love, and work better to live more, by Chris. How do you pronounce that? Gullaboo?
I don't know. But I know there's a lot of would-be entrepreneurs out there right now. They are sick and tired of the pandemic, sick and tired of arguing about whether they go into the office or not. And 2/3 of all employees are looking for another gig. I don't know if you've heard that.
Well, this author encourages people to go out on their own, and then he kind of gives a guide to overcome the challenges.
Absolutely.
Because there are challenges with starting your own business.
Are there ever? Yeah. And most of us feel naive and overwhelmed at the same time.
Right.
Yes. Well, I'm Lynn Hinderocker with Bruce Arendt right here at WowBiz, Nebraska. We have covered a lot of ground as we normally do. We focus in on public speaking. I'm sure you learned a lot in a short period of time with Patti Schutte. We talked a little bit about, and of course our promotional sponsor was PreSell. We talk about appointment setting. Prospecting is tough. If you've got somebody you can send out there via video who will kind of lay the groundwork for it, makes some sense.
Yes, it does.
Could be done. And then here we are talking about some of the greatest books that are in the marketplace right now. Bruce has great insight, and so we're offering a pretty robust plate of content right here in WowBiz, Nebraska. Again, don't you think?
So people have no excuse for not reading.
Absolutely. And no excuse for not watching the show, because there's always a lot jam-packed in there, stuff they're not going to hear anywhere else.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for being with me here, Bruce Arendt. I'm Lynn Hinderocker. It's a pleasure talking to you, seeing you. We'll see you next time here on WowBiz, Nebraska. Thanks for watching.